Hey guys, what's up? Thanks so much. Please subscribe. In this video, I go over a what if scenario and the DCEU. So, kind of starting with I think the most obvious one, which nearly happens. It happens. So nearly happened in the first movie, but could happen again. But basically, it's what if Zod did actually start, like, what if he was successful in terraforming Krypton and getting the codex? So this actually did kind of play out in the DCEU, where basically it's the end of the world and it's kind of a nexus event. So it basically ends the world, right? Millions of people die. The sun kind of doesn't really go supernova, but it basically becomes like a big lifeless desert. And now let's say that he doesn't really do a whole lot after that. It just kind of kills the Justice League and kind of basically destroys that Earth and universe, essentially. But let's say that first one, he does actually follow through, and so what would he do next? So first of all, his job in his own mind is to defend Krypton. Like, that's what he's basically engineered, right? Not just he's engineered, made to kind of do that. So what he would do, right? He would go to, once he has the codex, he would kind of consider like what to do next. And basically, once he has the codex, he would start making, I think he would kind of look at it and decide. He was part of the science, so it wouldn't really be clear if he could actually do anything with it, but let's assume that he did. And let's assume that he goes to Kal-El's ship. He encounters Jor-El. Jor-El talks him out of it, so he deletes the Jor-El program. Now let's assume that, what would he do next? He would let's assume that he decides to forego making the race for now, bring it back for now. So then he would travel to the stars. And he would go to, so essentially he would basically travel to what is essentially a kind of far off place. And eventually he encounters, they don't encounter many aliens. They stay in contact. They do eventually they get a hail, and they find that there could possibly be a Krypton outpost out there. And they travel to it, and they find that this is similar to kind of the Braniac attacks plot, or Superman Reborn plot. But basically they find that there's like a big kind of skull ship, and they go to investigate. They're sucked in. They fight very hard, but they're eventually assimilated by Braniac, because they don't really have like the mind. They're basically, they have a strong will, but they're not really designed with a science, so they don't really have that kind of intellect or ability to kind of quite get themselves out of situations. They don't have the Justice, and the Justice League is gone now, so they're captured. Eventually Braniac goes to Earth. Zod is able to put up a really tough, there's no more cities, so Braniac he only wants the Kryptons, right? He doesn't, because the cities are gone, there's no real interest for him. Now, they put up a big fight, and Zod somehow, he's programmed to defend Krypton, so he fights as hard as he can. Somehow they beat Braniac, but the losses are substantial, and it's attractive enough to bring in the either two people. So there's the Green Lanterns that see the destruction of Earth, and the planet, it's not like, it's kind of a far off planet, and they have a Green Lantern guarding it, but the loss of what's kind of a newer planet, up and coming planet, concerns them. And even though the Krypton, they've kind of been there in the past, it was an outpost, it was kind of tied to them, they eventually kind of grow suspicious, and they get track of this, so they're kind of on their way. And they this is kind of outside Braniac. And then also the other fighting, it's kind of attracted some more attention too. So it's attracted like some of the other Lantern Corps. So they're on their way. There's the orange, there's orange one that agreed. There's what else? Sorry, and then it also kind of attracts like and then the Collector starts heading there too, and because people thought that Krypton was dead, and no one really knew about Kal-El since he wasn't hiding, since they realized that there's Kryptonians, they all want to go and try to get him. And so it kind of brings all these people in. And they're heading to Earth. So even though he's just beaten Braniac, I mean, it cost him a lot. Now let's say that the Green Lanterns look, right, and they see that Earth has kind of been destroyed and the universe is kind of ending. But they see all these kind of people coming in. So they eventually kind of decide that they want to kind of just keep an eye on it. So they don't really, try to keep an eye on it. And now Mongol comes. So he eventually eventually, because Zod is heavily injured, there's two people. So there's Darkseid and Mongol. And it's not really questionable. So they realize that both are kind of heading towards them. The Green Lanterns are waiting. And then, yeah, so Green Lantern's kind of keeping an eye on it. And let's say that because of the speed, like his gaze, and because he's kind of been there in the past, and we have evidence that the Greek kind of Ares and all those guys, they've kind of implied that they're basically like kind of come from that lost kind of Krypton outpost. So he's already lost one battle to them, but he's kind of a little hesitant, but he still continues them anyway. There's not many left in the galaxy. Meanwhile, the guys from Mongol War World, they kind of like, so the Collector, so basically these guys kind of keep track of it, and once they kind of understand that, they kind of understand that there's like a lot of interest, they kind of back off a little bit, and because they're a little more cautious. So Mongol comes in and basically, so Darkseid kind of comes in. He sends his guys. They go after the mother. The mother boxes are in shambles. They're gone. He takes Zod with him. Zod's really beat up, and whatever, and then leaves. And then and then Zod has to compete against. He tries, and eventually Zod has to compete. He's tired. He eventually tries to stage a rebellion, but he's put down and arrested. So he's basically in jail. And then Mongol they send a collector. They kind of, the Green Lanterns kind of keep a close eye on things, but Mongol and the collector come in. They find like not really many Kryptonians are left. There's not really a whole lot left. They try to salvage the ship, but eventually they kind of leave. And they take some kind of the hardware with them. They take some of the robots and things with them. But other than that, they kind of leave. And then the Green Lanterns eventually kind of show up, and they kind of keep an eye on this stuff, but they kind of watch it it's really too late to kind of do anything about it. So they kind of go there, they collect some evidence, they kind of keep track of what happened, they kind of keep an eye on for scavengers and things like that. But essentially, yeah. So essentially, like, without the Justice League, like, a lot of the threats that the General Zod has to face, and without the intellect and of Superman and the help of the other Justice League, he kind of falters and fails. So